Good afternoon. My name is Tom Kendall, Chairman of the Finance Committee. Today is May the 17th. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 16th. May the 16th. I apologize. To my left is John Swazer, a member of the committee. To my right is Todd Siebert, also a member of the committee. We have Mr. Titterington, I believe, one item to come before Finance today? Or two items? Two items. Okay.
So the first item is with regards to the CDBG application. That is our biennial application. It used to be an annual allocation. The state several years ago asked us to combine those into every 2 years. This year is the year that we would apply for $150,000 CDBG amount. And in your packet, in the memo, you'll see that we are recommending that $100,000 be allocated towards a water main replacement project in the Harrison Atlantic Street area, $30,000 for handicap accessible ramps, the normal $2,000 allocation for fair housing program, and then 18 for general administration and related tasks to come to the $150,000. So we are asking for you to recommend legislation so that we can be authorized to apply for that amount. Related to that $150,000, that $100,000 for the water line replacement, we did identify that there is critical infrastructure funding at the federal level through CDBG for projects that have safety and other considerations, and so we want to apply for I guess it would be another $500,000 out of CDBG funds for that program. Combine it with the $100,000 out of the annual program or the biennial program, add $100,000 for the water fund, and then $50,000 out of our federal RLF revolving loan program to have $750,000 to replace several thousand feet of undersized water mains in that eastern area. Again, Harrison Atlantic area, that general neighborhood area. We have staff did talk to CDBG staff at the state level. Feel very confident that this meets their criteria and would be a good project to submit. And so out of this first item, we will ask for two pieces of legislation. One is for the $150,000, and then the other is for the $500,000 critical infrastructure grant application.
Okay. Right. And these funds in the past, I know we've used them in the past to do some of the curbs and the ramps, and didn't we use it for the alleys?
We've done alley work, we've done curbs, curbs and primarily ramps. The Lincoln Community Center has received some funding in the past. Family Abuse Shelter was another one.
Okay.
Habitat, that's correct. Yeah.
So it's money we've been able to use.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Todd, do you have any?
We should do it. I don't have a problem.
I'm good. Okay, so the two pieces, the first then, 150, does this need to be
They
emergency?
do not need to be emergency pieces
Okay.
of legislation.
150,000?
I'm good with it.
I'm good.
Okay, let's move forward with that. The second, the $500,000.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right.
So the next item relates to the revolving loan fund, again, the federal revolving loan fund. So we have been, I guess by way of background, the Lincoln Community Center, that building is owned by the city. The land under it is owned by the schools. Up until several months ago, the lot behind Lincoln Community Center, behind the basketball courts that Cedar Street dead ends into, that was owned by the park board. It was transferred to the schools. The idea is that those lots would eventually be combined. The building would be, so the whole property would be redeeded as one piece of property with the building and the one piece of land all on one deed. That is the long-term goal. The Lincoln Community Center recently completed a strategic plan that includes possibly expanding their services and their footprint out there, and so they can do fundraising and they can start to really put a business plan together. These are the kind of things that we need to have done. As you'll recall in our discussions related to the 2018 budget, to simplify things, if we could transfer that property over to Lincoln Community Center, it becomes their property, their responsibility, and then perhaps we would have a similar arrangement like we do with the rec and some of our other agencies, where we're just allocating a certain amount every year in support of the programming and whatever they need to use it for, without getting into the ongoing tenant-landlord, not issues, but challenges that come up from time to time. So one of the discussions, one of the things that we included in the 2018 budget was some funding so that we could assess the building inside and out to determine what kind of outstanding issues there are, costs there are, particularly the exterior of the building, that the city would make right before we got to the point where we transferred the property. So MT Studios came in and they did that assessment, provided a report. We have gone through that report. There are, and we tried to identify expenses that could be paid for out of CDBG money. Now let me go a little off track, but related. We have the two revolving loan funds. We have the one that's just the small business, and then we have the larger revolving loan fund, which still has the federal and state CDBG criteria, hoops that you have to go through, et cetera. I've said more than once that we track those balances very closely because, in a way, we're a victim of our own success. We have a lot of money that we've loaned out, performing very well. We're collecting income on a monthly basis. Our balances are not exorbitantly high in our mind because we keep churning that as much as we can, but in the state's eyes, because there are other communities that have not been as active with their funds and they've accumulated large balances, with the reductions at the federal level to CDBG allocations, since that is CDBG money, they look at those funds and those balances in the RLFs as a source if we have eligible projects for CDBG type grants. So our balance in the RLF is $250,000 to $300,000. It varies because we continue to collect interest. The target that the state would like to see us to be at before they start really scrutinizing it is around $100,000. The MT Studio report, we identified approximately 103,000 of repairs that should be CDBG eligible. And once we do those, and some of them are inside, some of them are outside, most of them are outside. And the reason I say that is that our agreement with the Lincoln Community Center is, in general, if there are things that go wrong in the inside of the building, it's their responsibility. Outside, it's our responsibility. However, LCC is an eligible recipient of CDBG money, so whether it's inside or outside, it's improving that building using those federal dollars. So some of the eligible items that need to be done include repaving the parking lot. There's some anchor bolts and work related there too, and those shore up the walls, so they're a safety issue. It could be a safety issue. They're not an imminent one, but something that need to be improved. There's some roof work, the roof itself, the eaves, downspouts, gutters, those kind of things. Roof and the boiler leaks, or did leak until we made some emergency repairs to it, and that was going into the mechanical room, which right over, I believe, an electrical panel, so we needed to resolve that quickly. But it needs to be re-roofed in that area. Water and sewer line updates, upgrades from the curb stops into the building. They're recommending that those be done because they are extremely old and we're not sure what kind of material they are and in what condition. Backflow preventers, there's some service sink issues that need to be resolved. One item that we have an estimated $40,000 number, but we really don't know what that number would be until we have somebody dive into it, is water lead parts, just the connections, not in the water itself, but because that is such an old building, we've tested it before. We have no reason to believe there's any issues there, but updating those, getting those replaced and updated the water lines in the building should be an eligible expense, and so we think we need to include that. That is, like I said, the amount is unknown. So if it's more, we may come back and ask for an amendment to that. But for now, the amount we want to go to CDBG administration is what we're requesting. And then some vent piping that it would also be eligible. So the total, the total that I just listed is $107,000, including that estimated water line amount. 107.
107.
107.
Okay.
Plus, just to round it up to 120,000, 13,000 for any design or architecture work that needs to be done, because this all would need to be bid out. So we'd have to have bid specs put together. There are other expenses, other costs in here that would be borne by the Lincoln Community Center. They're not CDBG eligible, but compared to the $120,000 number, they're relatively small, $18,000 to $20,000. So what we are asking for is if you would recommend to council that we make an application to the ODSA for the use of up to $120,000, that we in fact transfer, we have the authority when we get the approval to transfer the $120,000 from the RLF to the Capital Improvement Fund, and that would be more of an internal thing. And then any reallocations that we need in the appropriate 2018 budget amounts. I guess one other thing that we would need, Jim, we need them to authorize, okay, the council. Okay, I thought we were going to ask them to authorize bidding as part of this exercise, not later.
We don't have a bid number yet.
Okay, we'll come back to you then with that. I guess we could ask for authorization up to 120,000 and then re-engage if we have to, but it'll take about a month to get through the initial process with the state approvals. And so in that period of time, we'll try to tweak the numbers and get a better bid number, or at least get that process started. So we will need three approvals. Is that correct, Sue? Application to use the 120, transfer of the 120, and then the reallocation. The reallocations in the appropriate budget accounts relates to the 120 above. So we need two, or we need three?
Be reappropriated as necessary when the auditor comes up with his next reappropriation.
What's
If-
number three then? This is not the original thing that I saw.
Okay. That would,
Reallocations in the appropriate 2018 budget accounts.
and that would come with the next reappropriation following the approval,
Which would be number two also.
yes.
At this point, all we're asking for is to apply to Ohio to use the $120,000 and to, well, we don't need to, you're approving the use of $120,000 of revolving loan funds for that purpose. And we'll deal with the reappropriation and the authorization to bid later on.
Okay. Are you finished? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Two questions I've got. The Lincoln Center Board, how do they feel about what is being proposed, possibly from the standpoint of them having the building and the property and not being part of the city or school anymore?
Yeah, we had those conversations in the past with them. They've been very positive about that. In their minds, it helps their strategic plan and their long-term plans if they own everything.
Okay. So they have the desire then to become an independent entity.
It's not correct.
That is not incorrect.
So that's correct. Sue's a board member, that's
Right.
why I'm asking.
Okay, all right. So, second question, I knew there had been, in the past, some issues with the pool and all. Is that all fixed there, or is there still issues with the
No, I
swimming pool?
believe the pool is in good shape now. Yeah, the most recently, I believe they received a lift.
Yes.
The inspection highlighted a grounding issue, potential grounding issue,
Right.
it's not grounding now, but, and that they got right on and they fixed it. But other than that, the pool is updated, everything's fine.
All right.
When I talked to Shane, I walked through it 2 months ago, the HVA system was a problem. Is that not anything we're looking at, HVAC? It's a boiler.
Boiler.
Right.
Yeah.
They had to replace it. The boiler ended up just failing.
So they replaced that?
So that is.
Because that's what he was showing me. So that's been done,
That's been
and
done.
we paid that.
We paid a small portion of it. See, that's interior.
So
they
LCC
took care of
paid
that, and I'm not sure with what funds, but we did participate in that.
Okay, but that's been repaired.
That's been done.
And then, none of this is going to the acquisition of the property to the south? or
No.
north?
No,
Yes.
that has nothing to do
The
with
house,
us.
they bought the house next door, right? But we're not improving that at all.
Not in any of this
Okay.
funds, and
So these
that's
monies-
not part of any combination of lots that we would do. The only two lots that we're talking about combining
Are
would
the
be
one-
the building and
And
the
the
one
one
behind.
behind.
Right.
Right. Okay, so none of these monies are going to the house they bought?
Okay. John?
So all we're doing is we are taking money out of the revolving loan fund and putting it in the capital improvement fund to make it a non-forgivable loan to repair Lincoln Community Center? Is that how I understand
It
it?
wouldn't even be a non-forgivable loan, it would just be a grant, it would be a CDBG grant, which is redundant, but a CD grant
Okay.
for this specific purpose.
To the city of Troy. For the.
Well, we would run the bid process, so I guess, yeah, we would use it
Okay.
and pursue the repairs, yes,
So that would all run through us then?
correct.
I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Questions?
And I did neglect to say that we are requesting emergency. The deadlines are approaching on that, and there's a lot of legwork to do. We want to get, because of the delay that we expect at the state approval level, getting this done as quickly as possible would be.
Okay, so our being able to move the funds from our CDBG accounts over, we have to get approval from the state first, right?
Yeah.
I'm being told, yes, we do.
Okay, so the second part of the legislation is based on the first part happening, that the state's going to approve it.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so based on that, then, to go to the state and request that we be allowed to use the funding in our CDBG in the amount of 100 and, what'd you say,
120,000.
120,000. So,
But it's an asset of the cities, and right now, we have a duty to maintain it. It needs to be maintained. We've got the repairs due. So what happens down the road, we can talk about down the road.
Right.
But for right now, we have to maintain it, so I'm for that.
you're okay.
So we're just authorizing the application to be made at
Right.
this point?
Correct.
Yeah.
As emergency, so,
I'm
Okay.
with Mr. Sievert. It's Lincoln Center
Do
does a
we
lot
need
of
to
good
get
for
the
the
train- the
community,
money?
so.
Transferred now?
okay.
That's all we're asking.
Just the one item then?
Yes.
Okay, then it's unanimous, go forth, emergency, so. Okay, anything else come before finance?
No, sir.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.